Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. Coming up this week, we're going to talk about selling your DVC contract. Welcome, folks. Coming to you from the Bob Varley studio in Orlando, Florida. I'm your host, Pete Werner, joined in the studio this week by my good friends, senior editor of DVCFan.com, Mr. Paul Krieger.
Hey, everybody.
Amy Krieger.
Hello.
Who will soon have multiple titles. I have this feeling. And live in the studio with me for the first time, Marissa Hargitay Peloton Bike, also known as Marissa Valentin.
Hi, so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
She's even prettier in person, by the way.
We should have brought in a Peloton bike that she had to ride.
Yeah,
on
she had
the
to
show.
do spin class. She'd be doing
You're
She'd be doing spin class while we're doing this. Okay, so now I have my family in town, right? And I was just talking on another show about how nice it is to have my DVC points, because when my brother and his wife come in, or any members of my family, I can put them up. So just put them up at a one-bedroom in Copper Creek. And during the last show, my brother texted me, "Wow, this room is beautiful." Well, my sister-in-law just texted me right now, "Oh my God, this is beautiful." That's why I love owning DVC. But we're not here to talk about buying DVC. We're here to talk about selling DVC. Now, I think what I think about doing is selling some of my contracts to upgrade, to change. Maybe I want a different home resort. Maybe I want more points, but I don't know. I want options. And that's one of the reasons why our sponsors for this show is the World of DVC, which includes DVCResaleMarket.com, where you can buy or sell your DVC contract, DVCRentalStore.com, if you'd like to rent out your points and make some money if you're not going to use them, or if you want to try DVC before you buy, rent out some points. And it's going to be a lot cheaper doing that than going through Disney Direct. And of course, MoneraFinancial.com, where they're going to finance your they make it very, very, very easy to finance your DVC resale contract. So links to all of that in the show notes just below this video on YouTube. So what do you find, Marissa, is the reason a lot of people sell their DVC?
So yeah, we get a lot of people who reach out and say, like, what's the backstory of this? And I think when it comes down to it, there's probably like a few different groups that we can put people in. One of the biggest ones is probably exactly what you were talking about, people who want to sell their membership and then upgrade. So we get people, especially when you buy directly from Disney, right? So you're buying whatever product or inventory they have at that time. You're buying whatever you share that your guide suggests for you, because that's what their live inventory is for. So you're not necessarily always buying the exact resort, amount of points, or you share that really works for your family. So a lot of times members will be members for a while and go, you know what, we bought at Saratoga, but we only want to stay at Beach Club. So they'll go, okay, that's the time to sell our Saratoga points and upgrade and get points at Beach Club. So we get a lot of that where members are buying and selling and not necessarily leaving the membership, but just kind of formatting the membership that works best. The other would be kind of life patterns change. And that's kind of the beauty of DVC, where people bought Old Key West. They had a great time with their family. They used it for the last 20 years. They go online and go, I can sell this for way more than I bought it for. I used it for 20 years. And now, like, for example, Sue, one of the people in our staff, she just sold a few of her contracts. And she was one of the founding members of Old Key West. She takes her points and now she wants to cruise all the time. So it just made sense that, hey, I'm going to sell my points and now I'm just going to take cash and do cruises or just do random vacations. So kind of change in pattern and vacation. And then the final one would be kind of those normal, like death, divorce, just life changes where it just makes sense to do something different.
And, like we were talking right before the show, I have a number of contracts. And sometimes I change for the sake of change. Like, I'm bored. There is something very exciting about the process. About the selling a contract, buying a new contract, buying a new contract is like buying a new pair of nice shoes. That's exciting, or a new Louis Vuitton bag. Sometimes the Louis Vuitton is less expensive than DVC contracts. That's how I justify buying something expensive. Well, it's not a DVC contract. But and I'm in that role right now where looking at my contract saying, okay, what makes more sense? I have a lot of points and I use them all. And so, like, do I need more? Do I need different? I never use the 11-month window. Never use the 11-month window. I have no reason to, because for me, DVC stays on what's available. Mm-hmm. And that's the nice thing about living in Orlando. But I think people, you brought up that somebody selling an Old Key West contract. You don't have to be a founding member of Old Key West to make money on selling your contract, right? Because somebody who bought Animal Kingdom 5 years ago is going to do really well.
We bought 3 years ago, and it's already it's up a lot more.
We splurged and did one night in a cabin not too long ago, and were blown away. And
I remember Copper Creek.
Yeah, at Copper Creek cabin, and I remember sitting the next morning on the little picnic table that's outside, texting with Derek, and sort of trying to figure out, like, how much is our Animal Kingdom contract worth? And what if we bought sort of some cheaper points at Saratoga Springs to offset that? Would we get more? And our Animal Kingdom contract is worth more now than it was when we purchased it 3 years ago. So, like, I think a lot of members are in that boat of they can flip some contracts right now, get more points, and be better off, like yourself.
So you're going to buy enough points to stay in a cabin 3 weeks a year?
Yeah. I'm just going to live there.
It is probably one of the greatest selling points about DVC. I don't know of another timeshare that appreciates in value.
Right.
If you're a member of like Sheraton or Hilton Vacation Club, I don't think you're going to sell that I don't think you're going to sell it at all. But if you do, you're not going to sell it for more than you paid for it 5 years ago.
You don't see DVC on the list of the get out of your timeshare now,
Yeah, it's because it's a whole, Disney was smart in how they set it up. It was a whole different thing.
And I think there's that fear of people who maybe people who aren't as educated on the selling process, who know that timeshare side and are like, well, I don't want to reach out because I don't know if I trust you. But I think by educating the guests so much, especially over the past probably 4 or 5 years, you've seen a much more educated guest, and that adds to that value. So I think it's that great combination of Disney has created such an incredible product that increases over value even as the years diminish, but also the education of, hey, this isn't something where you've got to throw away to sell my timeshare now and maybe never ever see a profit or money again. So that's the beauty of Disney Vacation Club.
And right now, everybody thought the beginning of the pandemic that the bottom was going to fall out of the DVC market and we were all going to be buying contracts for $11 a point. That clearly has not happened. And I think, do you find that, like what I see in real estate with our moving to Orlando business, it's a hot market right now. Would you consider DVC to be buyer's market or a seller's market right now?
So for sure a seller's market. And we thought that we would see that shift probably like right during that March, April of 2020. And so we kind of like prepped ourselves for that in terms of like telling our sellers, hey, you might want to reduce your prices a little bit. And so some people got great deals versus like those 2 months. However, it immediately flipped once Disney reopened, and it's gotten like more and more of a seller's market. And I think people are just ready to get back on vacation. Disney is probably top on most people's lists. Mm-hmm. And it's a safe place where you can bring your family, but it's also that nostalgic memory where people go, I need that happy again, and Disney's going to infuse me with that. So I think all of the combination, plus with real estate, and people have a little extra cash maybe from different like government subsidies or things like that, where they go, let's make something special out of this and let's buy something that's going to be lifetime of memories for our family. So I think that kind of perfect storm, it's incredibly a huge seller's market. We have far more buyers than we have sellers.
Wow. Well, and that, that creates, we're certainly seeing it in real estate across the board right now, that seller's market is driving prices up. Certainly prices of homes here are insane. Houses getting 10, 15, 20 offers. And they're all like tens of thousands of dollars over asking price. I mean, it's insane. So you're seeing something kind of similar in resale. So it's a good time. I'm talking myself into selling some contracts. I'm going to buy other ones, but I'm talking myself right now which is how I started, like how I bought DVC in the first place when we first started doing these shows. And I think it was the first show we were doing. I can go back and look at it, and I could see, like, behind my eyes, like the wheels turning. I'm like, okay, I need to buy it. By the end of that first show, I talked myself into buying DVC. I didn't own it before that.
Your contracts will be listed before the end of this show.
Yeah, really. Well, I'd already said to Derek.
Yeah,
I think I got something I'm going to throw you. So it's a really wonderful time to do that.
Right. And I think if people haven't checked prices recently, I think it'll be a surprise. If you haven't checked prices over the last year, I think you'll be pretty surprised to see what things are selling for today.
We were just even talking about Riviera.
Yeah.
The Riviera resales, which, before Riviera launched, we wondered what the resale was going to look like. We were thinking $90, $95. I think over $140 a point at Riviera.
We just had a 50-point contract sell for $170 a point.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
$170. And that's at Riviera. And the reason, we're like wide-eyed talking about that is the Riviera resale restrictions. You buy a resale contract at Riviera, that's the only place you can use those points. Those points cannot be used at other DVC resorts, which is stupid.
But, you hear the people talking over in DVC fans Facebook group and stuff like that. There's diehards that absolutely love that resort, and the people that maybe haven't bought in there but have gotten to experience it. I think that we're gonna begin to see a market of those people emerge that really love the resort. Absolutely, just love the feel of the resort, the decor, and so that resale mindset, that restriction is not as important to them. They're willing to.
I think it's like the concept, we bought a small Grand Floridian contract, and it's like, these points are for Grand Floridian. Don't you go using those points somewhere else. Like, that's what they're for.
I made
so it
that
doesn't
mistake
really
once.
matter
Oh, no.
if you just buy, just to stay at Riviera. If that's where you want to stay, that's where those points are for. And
I'm sorry. I'm just realizing I forgot to introduce Fiasco. What is my problem? Our producer, Corey Fiascanaro, ladies and gentlemen.
That's how you know things are getting back to normal, everybody. Welcome home.
I'm so sorry. You think I've never done these shows before. And then I went through that period, the valley, where I just constantly forgot to introduce him. And I'm a horrible person.
It's all right. No, you're not. It's all
a horrible
good.
person, a horrible boss.
I was just waiting for it. I was like, he always realizes it and brings it up. I was like, I'll just let him go. I'll let it happen naturally.
You need like a series of signs that you can hold up at points. Like,
so yeah. Do you have anything to add, Fiasco, about selling contracts?
I mean, I guess not. So I've never sold a contract, and I have no intention of selling my contract. But definitely, what I've noticed is, like you've mentioned, people who have bought in the past, we just see a steady, constant climb of them getting more value than what they had when they bought in.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's like. In my mind, I have a few stocks that I look back at, and I look back, I'm like, I wish I bought that stock sooner. The same with DVC. Like, I wish I bought DVC sooner because I have a better value, and I always like to feel like my investment is worth more than I paid for it. So, yeah.
I definitely feel my investment is worth more than I paid, but not just financially. In terms of what my expectations were going in, and how much more I've gotten. That's why I keep buying contracts, because lobsters grow to the size of their tank. So the more points I buy, the more points I use. But the fact is, I live in Orlando. I live a half an hour away from Disney property, and I can't get enough points. And then, we were just talking about Alani.
Yep.
And the opportunity to use these points out in Alani and things like that. So one of the, there's any number of reasons you might consider selling your contract. I like the idea of selling to offset the cost of a bigger contract. That's like my thing.
That would be the only reason we would sell. Otherwise, you'll have to pry them out of my cold dead hands. Yes.
Okay, Mrs. Heston.
I do not manage the DVC points in our family. That's
yeah, I can tell that. I'm telling that real clear from here.
I have to ask to use them
No,
to get
them
out of the locker.
Please, ma'am, may I have another?
Yeah.
My husband is constantly running numbers, and he's like, if we sold now, look at what we could do with the money we would make. And I'm like, stop it.
No.
These are my points. Don't talk to me about them.
And the thing is that the points have such value on so many different levels.
That's it.
So I was just talking about being able to use them for my family, being able to use them for my own vacations. But also, being able to rent them out.
Yeah.
And make some real money.
I did the math on renting my points out, and it's if I rented all my points out for a year, it's 3 times. I would make 3 times more than what my annual dues are. So I mean, right there.
Well, and we've sat down and considered before, like buying a 250 point Bay Lake contract, and that being points that we just potentially rent as an investment.
Yeah.
The problem is that I think if we had 250 Bay Lake points at our disposal, that would be...
There'd be no renting.
There would be no renting.
No renting would be happening.
We looked into renting our points one time, and...
that was your fault.
This was my fault. I think I even sent an email about inquiring about renting my points, and then an hour later I had an impromptu stay booked for us to vacation on, because I was like, I just can't... No.
No, I'm not giving away these points.
One question that we get a lot over in the DVC fan Facebook group, Marissa, is how pricing for, if you are going to sell your contract, how pricing is sort of set. And some people see prices come out there and they're like, whoa, how did that? Can you shed a light a little bit into how that is determined and who determines that?
Yeah, so where we kind of gauge our pricing on would first be Disney's direct pricing. So in terms of kind of the scale of the resorts and pricing, we're going to reflect that. The other thing would be right of first refusal. So we gauge that as well. So we're pricing, we don't want to price below right of first refusal, because then what's the point, right? We're doing all the work of listing, the seller's getting less than what they deserve and the buyer's getting nothing. So it's kind of that fine balance of going, we need to be significantly less than Disney's direct to make it beneficial for the buyer, but we need to be above right of first refusal so that the buyer's saving. Then once we have that factored in, then we factor in resort. So if you go to our website and look at our economical blog, you can say, hey, where do the resorts line up in terms of years left on the membership, current pricing, kind of average resale pricing, and then what you pay per point on the dues to figure that out, and then size of contract. So a 300-point contract is going to sell for less per point than a 50-point contract. It's kind of going back to real estate, right? You go to that super nice neighborhood, and the 5,000 square foot house is going to be selling for a little bit less per square foot than the 1,000 square foot house next door. So that comes into play. So larger contracts, a little bit less per point than smaller contracts, and then available points. So if somebody has their banked 2020 points, and then every point for the years after that versus somebody may have no points until 2022, that's going to adjust those too. So our team is super versed in that. We actually have a tool on our website where you can go see broker opinion price right there on our website. And then our team's really good about taking that, factoring in average selling price, right of first refusal, and current market to give guidance on it.
Cool. Yeah. I had the tool up here just a little bit ago, and I thought that was a great thing. And the last thing that another thing that I thought of was, a lot of people don't like to talk about selling contracts. It's not the most popular topic ever. And I think that that's because in a lot of situations, it's focused around maybe a financial change or maybe a family change or something that's rather personal. And I just think, being sort of transparent in the fact that contacting DVC resale market, like you're just going to have a one-on-one conversation with like one of their sales agents, and they're going to be able to guide you, and it's going to be very like anonymous, personal, just that one-on-one relationship with them, because I think that is a hurdle. Like it's in a lot of, we've talked about like positive selling atmospheres, but I think there's a lot of like negative selling atmospheres that people like worry about, and they're apprehensive to maybe reach out and take that first step on. So.
Well, and I've never met a seller that says like, I'm out, I need to get rid of this. It's literally, it's the most bittersweet situation. And it's kind of beautiful to go from both sides of working even direct and knowing where they bought and where they came from. But every seller that goes to sell, it's like this kind of like, all right, here's my child that I'm sending off to the next phase in life.
Right.
Like we have sellers that write letters to the next buyer about like, I hope you take good care and have wonderful memories. So it's being on the resale side, it's super sweet. And so that's super special of like, it doesn't just end. Another family gets to have those years of opportunity as well.
Do they show up and like visit the contract?
It's like when you move into a house and it's like you got the welcome home basket from like the previous owner, and it's like, oh, these are the little quirks. Jiggle this handle.
Well, of course, if you are looking to sell your DVC contract for any reason, reach out to our friends at dvcresalemarket.com. They can certainly help you out. So that is going to do it for this episode of our show. We hope you enjoyed it. We will see you again next week with another edition of the DVC Show. Have a great week, folks.